where we left off. So, before lunch, we had found this zero, this x-intercept. When the directions say solve, that's what you're looking for. X-intercept, the zero. So we found that one. So now we're going to turn around and we're going to work on finding this one. And we're going to do exactly what we did before. So you still should have your graph. Unless you took your calculator later at lunch and messed around with it. You still have your graph. And now we're going to be finding that point right there. So once again, we'll do second calc. Choose option 2, 0, and press enter. Every time you do that, the cursor pops up somewhere. It's flashing somewhere. Mine is flashing right here because that's where it was when I did it before lunch. I need that cursor to be moved over here somewhere. Here's what I'm trying to do, you guys. I'm trying to surround this point. So I want my cursor, my left bound, this is the left side, I want it to be here. Somewhere over here. There's no specific spot, just somewhere over here. So using my arrow buttons, my cursor is moving, and it is now right here. So I'm going to press enter. On my calculator, this little arrow thing comes up to remind me, okay, that's where you set your left bound. Some of the newer calculators draw a physical line. It needs to be to the left of the point you're looking for. Okay? Now, move the cursor. It's here. Move it over here somewhere. I want it to the right of that point. Again, no specific place, just over there. Press enter. Now I have an arrow here. I need arrows or lines on each side of the point I'm looking for, the particular point I'm looking for. Now my cursor is here. So I'm going to move it close to the point that I'm looking for. So just arrow a couple of times. Press enter. And what does it say? What is this one right here? 0.405. Yeah, you guys are winners. Who got 0.405? Raise your hand. Okay, the rest of you, look around. Those are your experts. Raise your hand again. Those are your experts, okay? So that's who you go see if you're having a hard time getting that point. Okay, folks? All right. Here's what we're going to do. I am going to, actually no, I'm going to go ahead and do we'll do an extra practice one. Remind me on Monday, since some of you don't have a calculator, you need to get one, you need to have one. It's ridiculous not have one, get it. But let's go ahead and do one more practice problem. And then we'll move on and do some other stuff here. What is your thought on this problem? What do you think we might want to do first? Ronan?
Subtract the 8.
Yeah, let's get it set equal to 0. Because after all, what are we looking for? The zeros, the x-intercepts, right? So you don't need to change a thing except go to y equals. Hit clear to get rid of the old equation and put in x squared minus x minus 8. Anytime you're putting in a variable, you're going to use your variable button, which is that one right there. All right, let's hit graph. Remember what you're looking for is where it crosses the x-axis. I can see that right there, right? Okay? So one at a time. It doesn't matter which one you start with, but you can only do one at a time. So I'm going to do this one first. So second calc 0. And what always happens when I do that, I get a cursor. And where do I want my cursor? Over here somewhere? Press enter. Then I need to move it so it's down here somewhere. So I move it. Enter. Then I move it to about there, some close. Press enter. What did you get for this one? There you go. Negative 2.372.
How many places do you want to write in?
We'll follow the directions. If there are no directions, we'll default to the AP Precal, which is 1,000. Sometimes there's directions, but if there aren't, we'll do 1,000. Okay, would you guys that have a calculator, would you try this one now? If you feel confident, like if you're one of our experts, give your calculator to somebody who doesn't have one.
My one is over there, Joe.
If you feel like you got this on the control.
Zero's easy,
Yeah, both zeros are the answers. Two answers to the problem. So x equals this, and what's the other answer I'm gonna get? 3.372. Yep. So there are the answers to the question. Now, these are quadratics, but the powerful thing is, it doesn't matter what your equation is. It could be something awful like, 3x to the 5th minus 8x to the 4th, blah, blah, blah. It could be that, and you can still do it the same way. The calculator will do it, find all your zeros of any equation. Okay? All right, let's set those aside now. We're not gonna need them for a little bit. Solve by extracting square roots. That is the fancy math vocabulary for take the square root of both sides. Take the square root of both sides. So what do I have if I take the square root of both sides?
3x equals 4.
3x equals, be very careful here, plus or minus 4. When we square root both sides of the equation, one side, it doesn't really matter which one, but I always do the number. One side has to be plus or minus. Okay? Because we gotta end up with, remember how we got two answers when we graphed? We have to end up with two answers. Anytime we have an x squared equation, we're gonna end up with two answers. So, what are my two answers? Plus or minus 4/3. You can write those separately if you want, x equals 4/3, x equals negative 4/3, or just write plus or minus 4/3. Now, E, be careful. Divide by 3, perfect. So the first thing you want to do is get rid of that 3. So now you have this. Now can we square root both sides? Yep. And what's going to happen now when we do that? What happens when you square root a square?
Cancel it out.
You cancel it out. And you're left with x plus 1 plus or minus root 3? Yeah. Then we solve for x. So x equals negative 1 plus or minus root 3. Now, if you wrote plus or minus root 3 minus 1, that's perfectly fine. The only thing I caution you about is make sure that radical is only over the 3. Okay? But either one of those is perfectly all right. It doesn't matter. All right. How about C? Yep. Does everyone understand that we can't divide this one by 3? Do you see the difference the way these problems are written? We can't divide this one by 3. So So we're just gonna jump in and square root. So what's it gonna say? 3x minus 4 equals plus or minus 12?
Yeah.
So 3x minus 4 either equals 12 or 3x minus 4 equals negative 12. Does that make sense to you? So now I have two equations to solve, and therefore two answers. So 3x equals 16 thirds, and 3x equals negative 8, so negative 8 thirds. Those are the two zeros. So if you did this on your calculator, you would get the decimal form of this, but you would get like 5.333 and negative 2.666.
How do you put it into like fractions as well? Is it
Math,
math
fraction.
one?
Math, fraction. All right, finally D. Now this one is going to be messy. Procedurally, it is exactly the same, but it's not going to be very nice. What is step 1?
5 by 2.
Divide by 2. And I'm going to leave that as a fraction because it's going to be easier to handle to simplify as a fraction. So leave it 7/2. Now can I square root? So x plus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 7/2. Now we need to pause a moment and think back to last year. This means the same as root 7 over root 2. Would you agree with that? And we can't have a radical in the denominator. So we'll multiply by the square root of 2. So now we have plus or minus the square root of 14 over 2. Do not cancel the 2 into the 14. You cannot cancel an inside the radical number and an outside the radical number. Those don't cancel. Okay? So x plus 1 equals plus or minus root 14 over 2. So x equals negative 1 plus or minus root 14 over 2, or plus or minus root 14 over 2 minus 1. That's going to be your answer.
You know why the 2 stays? You know why it stays 2 at the bottom?
It's the square root of 2 times the square root of 2, which is the square root of 4, which is 2. And that's why we did it, because we want a plain number down here and not a radical.
So if it was closer to 2.
Yep, yep. Was it good? Oh, yeah. Right, something like that. I don't know, maybe cranky. All right, here we go. 3A. And while I'm thinking of it, kudos to Joe Garvey. Came in this morning, needed a little bit of help, super, but you know what he brought in? Remember that extra practice sheet that I gave you with that first day of school? I gave you a packet and it said additional homework practice or something. He was doing those. That's how he was practicing. So remember, you have these and the answers are in Canvas, so you can do them and look up the answers yourself, okay? That's available if you wanna be like Joe.
Nice, Joe.
All right. X x squared minus 8x plus 12. I'm going to solve by completing the square. Now, we've already talked about this. You know how to do it basically, but let's make sure everybody's on board. Because on test day, when there's a question that says solve by completing the square, if you solve it by factoring or something, you don't get any points, all right? We need to know the process. So, who can remember, we did this with our circles, who can remember how we would start this
You
problem?
divide by 2. Or you move the 12.
I move the 12 and leave a gap here because 12's not a good number. I need to find the good number to put here. And how do I find the good number?
You divide 8 by 2.
Divide 8 by 2
Square.
and square it. Remember that?
Yeah.
So this number right here is the one, you take half of it or divide it by 2 and you square it. And that's going to give me 16. Make sure that you add it to the other side also. Now, why did you do that? You did that for a reason. Why did you do it? What's this?
Linear function.
Well, it's quadratic.
Or quadratic.
And what's special about this quadratic? It factors, and not only does it factor, but its factors are the same. This is a perfect square, x minus 4. X minus 4. X squared, 4 squared, minus x minus 4, x minus 4. Hence the name completing the square. We found a number to make this a square. So that equals 4. And then can I do this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So x minus 4 equals, watch it,
2. Plus minus 2.
plus or minus 2. How many answers do I need? 2. I have 2 answers. So x minus 4 equals 2, or x minus 4 equals negative 2? So what are my answers? X equals 1 is 6 and 1 is 2. How about that? Neither order, of course, that doesn't matter. Order doesn't matter. Is that okay with everybody?
You can write them just separate, like x equals 6 and x equals.
Absolutely, you can. All right, you and your partner repeat the process with problem B.
What?
Yeah, you need to square it. I think you divide by 2.
Jayla, are you okay over there? Are you okay? Look at that, somebody's class. Right, have you figured out the number you're gonna add to both sides yet? What is it? 4. Did everybody add 4 to both sides?
Yes.
Caitlin, were you able to write this as a square?
I was getting to it right now.
What do you think it is? X. Actually, it's gonna be a plus this time because it copies that sign. Okay? X plus 2, x plus 2. And that equals 6. Jake? I don't know how to say your last name. Jake S. What do I do now?
Just
Square root. So x plus 2 is going to be plus or minus the square root of 6. So x equals -2 plus or minus root 6, or plus or minus root 6 minus 2. It doesn't make any difference. Write it the way you are comfortable writing it. All right, because we're big kids and smart kids, you gotta up it a little bit. So this is like a level 3, this would be like a level 6. And then D is gonna be like as bad as it gets, level 10. All right? So here we go. What do you think? Now this was different. What's different about it?
It starts with a 2.
Starts with a 2. You are not allowed to start with something. It has to be a plain x squared. So the only way to fix it is going to be to divide it out. So we have x squared minus 2x plus 3 halves equals 0. All right, so let's make sure that rule is in our head. If we are completing the square, this has to be a 1. All right, so now we can move our 3 halves over and leave our space. For our new number, 1 plus 1 plus 1. What square is
1.
this?
1.
Times 1.
Well,
X minus 1?
yeah.
And what have I got over here? Negative 1/2. Are you adding your fraction? This would be 2 over 2. So negative 1/2. Oh boy. What's the next step?
You have to root it.
I gotta root it.
have a radical.
And I got all kinds of mess going on here because when I root it, not only am I gonna have a radical in the bottom that I'm gonna have to deal with, but I also have an I I'm gonna have to deal with. So x minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of negative 1 over the square root of 2. So square root of negative 1 over the square root of 2. Is that all right with everybody? Now, the square root of negative 1 is I. So that's easy. And then how do I get rid of the radical 2? Multiply by another radical 2. So x minus 1 equals plus or minus I root 2 over, what does this make? 22. I heard somebody say, how do you do that? I don't know what you're talking about. What do you need to know? How I did what? What I did?
Man, oh man, I root.
Then I'll add my 1, either at the front or the back. It's completely up to you. And there's our answer. Okay? So a lot of what we had to do was just arithmetic stuff. We knew how to complete this square. All right, last one, here we go. So I heard somebody say move it over, and I think I will definitely move it this way. So I'll have 3x squared minus 9x minus 12. Does that look okay with everybody? And then I'm going to divide everything by 3, because if I'm completing the square, I can't have it. So x squared minus 3x minus 4.
Yeah.
Move that 4 over. Everybody doing okay? Now here comes the part why when Mrs. Ford said this was gonna be a big bad problem, here's why. How do I find my missing number here?
You divide by 2.
I divide by 2
And you square it.
and square it.
9/4.
So exactly, so 3 divided by 2 squared is 9/4.
And then parentheses x minus 3/2.
Wait a minute, what?
So to find my magic number, I take half of 3, divide by 2, 3 halves, and then I square it. Okay? So x minus 3 halves, x minus 3 halves, right?
Yeah.
Equals, careful, this is gonna be 25 over 4, isn't it? If I get a common denominator, 16. And then I will
Root it.
x minus 3 halves
5 halves.
equals plus or minus 5 halves. Oh, that worked out great. So x minus 3 halves equals 5 halves, and x minus 3 halves equals negative 5 halves. Alright, so if I add 3 halves over here, what do I get? X equals 4, 8 halves. And if I add 3 halves over here, I get x equals, watch it, negative 1. Why would it be negative 1? Because it's negative 2 over 2, negative 5 and 3, negative 2 over 2. Alright, I'm going to stop there because I can't really start the next one. You guys have been champions.